Okay, so let's talk about the actual guitar now. Tell me about the style.
Well, we chose the Telecaster body because Jason and I both really liked just the design of it, and it happens to be we kind of think of it as the root of the rock and roll, guitar, and the kind of one of the first electric guitars that was ever made, and so starting this project, we both had a strong connection between the wood and what we wanted to get out of the design.
Okay, so tell me about the wood.
Okay, well, the body wood obviously is taken from the dam, and it's heart pine, and the dam was installed in around 1850s, so it's 200-year-old wood, because this is all one piece, so it would have been a 16-inch wide board beforehand, so it's a big old tree that was then underwater for a long time.
Right. So tell me now about the guitar itself, about the process, specifically the body here. What process did you go through in working on this? Okay,
well, we wanted to pay homage to the wood itself. We wanted to keep it all natural wood finishes. And so we did a lot of experimenting with different types of finish, different types of stain and all that kind of stuff to try to find the best way to represent the wood. And what we came up with was something that we found while researching online. We burned all of the wood. We burned it. So we put it over a big turkey roaster that was shooting flames up, and we put it on a kind of like a neck spit and worked it over the turkey roaster. And what that did was it charred the outer edge, and it boiled all the sap out of the top layer of the wood. So this body has no stain on it. Absolutely none. All of this natural wood color came from sap and came from the burning process. So once we burned it, in the brownish, a lot of the lighter brown is the caramelization of the sap inside the wood. So once that pulled off, then we brushed all of the darker blackened parts, the charred parts, off the top, and this is what we finished with. So what we ended up with was wood that had cracks in it, and you could feel the grain when you rubbed your hand across the top. You could really feel the grain in it. So we couldn't use the standard nitrocellulose finish most Telecasters have, because that is a really flat finish, and everything has to be sanded really well. And that just wasn't what these guitars were about. It didn't fit the heart of these bodies. So we settled on using a gunstock oil finish. And what that does is you hand rub the wood and you rub the oil into the wood, and that soaks in and then hardens in the top layer of the wood. And that gives stability to the wood, and it also, after you put a couple layers on, that gives the kind of the look that you have here. And it's not a perfectly flat finish. You can see all the ripples and everything in the wood, and that we thought was something that was really cool. And it also changes how the sides and grain of the wood affects. It takes the stain, and you can see the cracks in the bottom and on the top.
So this wood, if I understand correctly, this wood came from the dam, so it was underwater for 115 years.
That's right.
Now, what kind of challenges or opportunities came with working with material like that?
Yeah, it was difficult. So we had a lot of back and forth about how we were going to handle, because the wood was so old. Pine is soft on its own. Because this wood is so old, it wasn't pressure treated, and it had been, like you said, underwater for so long, it was very brittle. We were taking smaller pieces and breaking them with our hands, which obviously would never work. So we kind of sat down and had a moment, a conversation about how we were going to solve that problem. And what we ended up doing was, I like to call it the spa treatment. We took a big bin, and once we had cut the bodies out and worked on any cracks, trying to fill any cracks that were already there, the wood would warp. Usually a piece of wood, once it's cut, 3 months later, once it's in the environment that it's going to be built in, it is solidified and it's not going to move anymore. This wood, after 6 months, was still warping and changing. So we needed something that would keep it from doing that. So what we ended up doing was give it the spa treatment. We put it in a bath a mixture of glue and water in a big tub and sealed it, and the wood sank down into it, and then we let that glue soak into all the cracks and all the imperfections and the grain, and then we pulled it out and let it dry and put it in a humidity-controlled environment, and when the water evaporated and dried, it left the hardened glue on the inside, and that really solidified the wood.
That worked.
It worked, and then once we burned it, any of the cracks, all the cracks that were under the surface that we couldn't see, came to the surface, and some of them got really, nasty looking. So what we had to do was we filled all those in separately with glue several times to make sure that they were all hardened. And we actually found that once the cracks, even if a crack was almost all the way through a piece, if we glued it properly, if we tried to break that piece, that was the strongest part. So we now know that those cracks aren't going to break unless you're, try